Hey you guys, it's MJ from Alta Love. I just tried to go live and it didn't work, and actually I was going to make this an unlisted or private video. It might still be private, I'm not sure. I wanted to talk about how to kind of make sense of human evolution and this idea of the evolution of consciousness for humanity on this planet, and how to, I guess, understand it in a scientific way. And I was getting really cool insights last night, hence going live this morning, feeling very directed to talk about how it works. And this really does align with, one, our spiritual wisdom, that we've been accumulating momentum as far as spiritual teachings and wisdom and embodiment over the ages. Scientifically speaking, as far as that mechanistic worldview or the world of progress, but from a 3D perspective, i.e. a perspective of separation and human lack and limitedness, that that world is shifting because of scientific study and understanding quantum physics, understanding a quantum reality. So our minds are grappling with more expansive knowledge, you could say. And so this, our opening up to this expansive knowledge is one and the same as us grounding these new realities or the new paradigm. So how I feel into like how it works, it's that individuals around the world over time have been raising themselves up, right? And again, this is a long history. This is a long timeline of a perspective of humanity on a planet. And as individuals expand our awareness, so we start to awaken to, wait, maybe there's more than just getting a job. And again, fitting into the conceptual framework that we have to date, which everyone has a slightly different perspective, and so we have a different way of framing it. But it's us constructing a reality from a certain perspective, i.e. a finite one, a limited one, and one of lack, one of separation, one of fear. And you could say that that served progress to a certain degree, or that served a certain aspect of a timeline on planet Earth to a certain degree. And just like we witness the planets that create a symbol as they cycle around other planets. So just like how we have patterns, we see the patterns reflected back to us in how the planets, in a very divine and cosmic way, they cycle around the sun, and each revolution has expansive tendencies. And we are opening ourselves to bear witness to our own universal expansion or planetary expansion. And it really is tied into the study of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, or quantum coherence. So we know that scientifically, like, a cell can be divided and split, i.e. divide and conquer, separation consciousness, right? So we split that. But what we're remembering, rediscovering about our universal connection or universality, or people say infinite intelligence or connection to source or connection to God, remembering is that they're actually the same. And what happens is that if this cell over here has a change or a shift or a breakthrough, the other one has it too. And we often get blinded by our judgments about present moment, and or we get our heads stuck in the past or future, hence being bound to unconscious patterns and programs until we awaken and begin the embodiment or atonement or completion process or ascension process. Again, we don't need to get too stuck on words necessarily, semantics of what it means. It's an inner connection to the source of all that is, and that Connection helps us to ground, clear the blocks. The blocks are just aspects of a perception that's imprinted on our beingness. And then as we storm it out, so when we have emotional storms or clearings, those clearings are an alchemical process which is helping to raise our vibration. It's shifting our cells into a lighter density. Now, this lighter density is the new paradigm. It's humanity vibrating on a higher level, which basically, from a certain perspective, you could say it kind of gives us superpowers. It gives us super healing powers. I practice it myself on the reg, and I enjoy it immensely. And the more we practice it, the easier it gets. Creation and innovation that's being born to relieve human suffering in the form of enslavement and labor. So there will come a time in our not too distant future where humans don't need to work to push progress forward. We will have advanced technology that's sustainable, non-impactful in a negative way on the earth that can relieve humanity of that burden, which is one and the same of what people would call the dark forces who have stationed here for ages. And the new paradigm, or beings who are here, you could say from a higher, not higher as in better, but just the signature frequencies of certain beings are just lighter because of their soul's journey. And that's the contract or the idea of this community of like light workers and stuff, that there's just this knowing and this intuitive awareness and understanding without going to school for these subjects or without having to read lots of knowledge about science, because actually intuitively the wisdom is already there. The wisdom is in our codes, so once we start shifting, most of us, we've been doing it most of our lives, but we've been clearing dense energy. And that continual work is what's elevating, you could say, the mental awareness to know how to explain it and connect the dots. So those of us as sensitives, bringing greater love and light to the planet, are kind of grounding more deeply down. Now, just like I talked about quantum coherence, humanity is one body of Christ, right? So, and the humanity that doesn't align with this story, it's fine. They have another story to tell and another timeline to create. But those of us here creating paradise or heaven on earth, or desiring this great awakening, intuitively knowing your mission, intuitively knowing that you're here to share from a certain point of attraction or a certain level of knowledge that you have within you, we're all part of this new humanity, this new earth, this soul family. We came here specifically for this purpose in every incarnation, learning about the darkness and the history of humanity from our own soul's perspective. And that's part of the idea of the meat shall inherit the earth, is that we're not here to control and dominate any longer. We're not here to manipulate people to get stuff, to get what we want, because we have a deep and profound cellular understanding that we are the creators, that we are that which we seek. So those of us intuitively been doing the work for a while are now vibrating and radiating it enough to teach in a more effective way. And for me, often breaking it down and making it really practical for people is par for the course, right? It's like, yeah, it's what we do. It's how we be. It's how we breathe. It's what we're thinking about. And humanity, the big leap, as it were, that humanity is taking is starting to own their creatorship, right? So humans who desire to own their creatorship are rising themselves up by penetrating their own darkness, by understanding and making connections to a broader aspect of themselves. So again, a galactic self, or just a universal self, or a broader soul self, or higher self, and integrating that, bringing that greater self into your own body, which is part of the alchemy of emotional storms. So over time, over a long historical context of a human story, we've been stuck in these patterns of limitation, fear, and control. And slowly but surely, over the ages and ages of evolution, humanity starts to wake up to, oh, wait, maybe I'm, oh, wait, oh, wait, and as one mind heart awakens, so does the entire collective who's intending that creative force field. And I guess why I want to sometimes explain these cool insights, because it explains something that we can't quite see yet. So when we dip back into 3D reality, people are like, it's never gonna happen. You're too idealistic. Never in our time, right? While we're alive, are we going to see these changes? And I don't agree with that. I feel like we're in the changes now. And again, even though the mainstream media, I talk about unplug for the mainstream media, because most of the information, or a lot of the dominant mainstream information that we get, is not aligned with new paradigm. It's dictatorial, it's propaganda, serving dark, you can say dark forces, but really it's our own darkness that it serves, and then perpetuates the fearful story as something separate from you, rather than you integrating your darkness to become light, right? And that's a shift of paradigm when you own your own creatorship, is that you have to own all of your darkness as well, which is often where people in different circles talk about the false light. So a lot of the spiritual circles, conscious circles, love and light worker, it's false. It's actually another layer of control, domination from the dark, manipulative forces, right? So we have to often penetrate the darkness, the suffering, and then this false light shit, which is super weird. And then if we really just stay earnest and connected to the intuition, it will see us through. And then again, it will be like another a rebirth cycle. Every one of us, a lot of us have had like many transformational cycles within this lifetime, which is again part of the acceleration of the Great Awakening, because the past was always death and then rebirth in the incarnation way. And then this acceleration is having us go through these death experiences within one lifetime and transforming our lives and bottoming out and seeing and integrating aspects of our many aspects of ourself, and reclaiming our soul essence and bringing and infusing that back. So we're going to continue to see a rising up of humanity, which is really exciting, but like nothing we've ever seen before. Plus, what we're not seeing on the planetary level yet is the bottoming out energetically. So those of us in this community are intuitively recognizing the kind of the sweeping cosmic waves of change, which are heightening our awareness, helping us to become more clear channels, so that the teachings can be felt and delivered with greater impact and clarity. And then that continues to ripple out, and then that continues to ripple out, because it's people connecting to something very deeply familiar, just forgotten. So once we continue to help one another connect in, we ground and anchor our sovereignty as divine souls, which then expands it out and out and out. And those on a different timeline, those with a different agenda, those who still want to kind of manipulate, control, dominate, deceive, those who still desire that as a way to create, they can basically fuck off and go create that somewhere else, because humanity and Earth doesn't belong to you, because sovereign beings are aligned with a sovereign planet. So Earth as a planet, there's no real contract for these, or like legitimacy for the beings that are running dark shows here, for them to stay. The Earth just won't have it. And nor those of us creating heaven on earth have that desire in us. It's not alive. It's not vibrating, which is why witnessing that depth of suffering has been so painful for a lot of us. light workers. Guys, I get triggered by that expression, by the way. Like, I really don't like it, but I do understand what it is. So yeah, which is why it's been such a painful, emotional kind of suffering life for most of us, because we just had to keep going and keep surrendering and keep giving over and shedding and facing just some crazy shadows from within ourselves, and then purging our realities, and people, like the darkness, other people's darkness coming out when we're least expect it. We're like, ah! And now we're in our recycle. Now we're in birthing year, right? So we're literally birthing our manifestation. The way I feel into it is like, literally, this time that we're in now is the only reason I ever incarnated, was to experience this great awakening. And part of it is a large part to do with, finally, we can hear one another around the globe. And I literally see it. So that's again, I've been tuning into Aluna Ashmore, and she does talk about this. Like, this is all like per human people or collective doesn't even necessarily know about this sharing, because it's meant for a broader connectivity. So she talks about the waves, which when I heard her say, could feel them. And then I've always seen in my awareness pathways. So light, like you see the kind of almost like plane pathways. So I see light grids being formed, and then recently they've been anchoring in. The anchoring has actually made certain darker entities just start to vacate, like they're leaving this realm, and then the light grids are uprooting the dark, hence the inevitable collapse of the corrupted world economy and building of new systems and structures, which are on a more elevated level. So that's all happening, you guys. We're rewiring those electrical pathways. That's part of our evolutionary shift. And this is great wisdom. This is stuff from deeper within us. And again, in our historical context, that's part of more women speaking, because women have been typically the dominant oppressed gender. A lot of the wisdom is being reawoken from within us, because we're more deeply connected to the emotional field and that intuitive field, right? So our ability to express, connect, remember stuff is a big part of more and more people remembering stuff, because for a lot of us, the dominant worldview stamped that out. It stamped out the wisdom, made it male, and so we're having to outwork a lot of those human programs to remember our inherent unity, balance, oneness, and integrity, so that we can start to congregate with more integral community, right? Of awakened beings, or beings open to reclaim that next level of creatorship status, which we are going to just continue to do that for one another. And then it's like siphoning our stuff. I want to use the word sifting or siphoning through, so that the new paradigm pioneers, bridge builders, leaders, all that, basically reframe the world's resources. So a lot of new paradigm businesses and communities will start to see that influx of customs, customer base, money coming in, because there's work to be done, and all of the resources necessary and needed for us to build is now making itself known and manifest. So it's amazing. It's so beautiful. And I could always continue talking about it. Once I'm sharing, I'm like, I hope this was as clear as those downloads I was getting about, seeing the cycle round and round and round, and then knowing that evolution is sort of like a leap usually, because it's to do with survival, and because the whole planet is kind of in healing crises. All of humanity desiring a better projection are starting to wake up. They're waking up to their responsibility, and also to their desire for just more love, like genuine kindness, rather than some of the crazy darkness that a lot of us have witnessed, faced, and been a part of, right? Making excuses for people, accepting lies rather than trusting intuition, right? So the subtlety of learning as far as our clear psychic abilities and our intuitive abilities is now being honed. And that is only going to help usher, and people can continue to choose to stay in their own darkness, to stay in their own shame, or to choose to look at it, clear it, and be humble enough and vulnerable enough to be completely transparent about we're all in this together, you know? And we're not against each other. I know people want to believe that to a certain degree, or people might think that, but it's not true because we're all source, essentially. So I hope that was useful to you guys, maybe even a little entertaining. I'm super in love with love, and I look forward to speaking to you guys soon. I look forward to seeing you all somewhere in the world, maybe Hawaii next March. We're getting ready. We're going to more than likely definitely be doing our Unplug for Freedom retreat. So that's going to be kind of closing off and celebrating the launch of all 4 Be the Change courses, and take people away to the chalet for some paragliding, some yoga, and just like unplug. Let's put our phones away for a week and just talk and chill and rest and sleep and create. I love you guys. Have an awesome day. I'll speak to you real soon. Peace out, lovers.